Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds because I can see people are joining. Happy Tuesday, happy bonfire night if you are in the UK. It's looking a bit wet and miz out there, so I'm not quite sure how the fireworks are going to go this evening, but the pets and the wildlife will be very pleased about that. So good afternoon. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Good to see you. I'm going to get started. If you are watching and you join a little bit late, we're going to be sending this out on replay anyway, so do not fear, you won't miss any of Ginny's pearls of wisdom. I just want to give it a little bit of context before we kick off. So Ginny is going to take you through the lion's share of today's session. We're looking to finish at about 11:45, there or thereabouts. Depends on how many questions you guys have. You're very welcome to pop questions in the comments box as we go along. We will leave them till the end just for the sake of getting through the little session that we've got prepared. And I guess the reason behind us starting to deliver this content monthly is just a kind of culmination of the events really that have happened over the last few years. I think it's fair to say that we are in a geopolitical, chaotic environment wherever you are based. Business is hugely affected. We're coming off the back of a pandemic, which is unprecedented. And so everyone is kind of almost unconsciously been stepping into this fear state, which disables us. It's frozen people in a way that they're not making decisions. Businesses certainly are not making decisions, which means that selling anything, no matter what your product is, becomes very difficult because people become quite reticent to making any active choices in that environment. And so what Ginny's going to talk to you about today is something different that you will be able to actively apply to your business, which are some levers to pull and push, shall we say, that are going to gain a bit of traction from a sales perspective because it's noisy out there and it's also scary out there. So with no further ado, I'm going to jump off the screen. I'll pop on again at the end. We've got some slides to talk you through. Ginny, when you want me to move the slides, just give me a nod or a shout out and I'll move them for you. And I will see you on the other side, peeps.
Anna, that's the last slide. Oh, look at us. We'll be rewinding ever so fast. Right. Okay. So what I want to talk to you about today and to give you some insight to, so you can take some stuff away today, is human code, because we're all programmed. And we're going to look at how we're programmed in a second. But it means you can learn this code and significantly increase the number of people who buy from you, especially in the current environment, which is, in the end, very high risk for anyone. Anna? So Anna popped up. You saw Anna. A hugely disruptive CEO. She's a serial entrepreneur, has built businesses, which last one sold for 42 million. And the thing Anna and I both share is about empowering others and social change. So this is why we run these seminars, so you can take stuff away and use it in your businesses today. Me, if you've met me before or you've seen me on LinkedIn, I've been a CRO most of my life, but I'm odd because my background's science and my PhD research was in how your brain's been structured by evolution. And I've then used that to transform, and we'll come on to some of those examples, multi-million-pound businesses. But our joint is about empowering others, which is why you guys are here and we can help you today. Anna. So what's the first thing we're doing? We're learning the human code. How are we going to do that? We've said hello, but now we're going to look at how you are programmed, because a lot of people think they're not. And it's quite surprising to realize how much of our behavior is programmed, because obviously if it is, we can then build a code to be able to interact with that. And that's one of the tool sets we'll be talking about. We've also got you some real life code examples and how they've acted. And also then you can choose where you want to start. So I think the outcome here today is just to open your minds a little bit and to allow you to choose to generate sales differently and by using how we're programmed. So let's dive in. Programmed am I? Right. Because we are. Let's go to the next slide, Anna. I want to stop for a second and take a step back, because you'll see a lot of images on the right all about the colour red, and I've even got red on today. But common unconscious programs. Your brain has been programmed to keep you safe. And to do that, what it does is continually predict the environment in front of you. And it does that by using programs you might have learnt, but also programs or things that have been useful from evolution. So we're just going to look at a couple of those now, so you can really start to feel this for yourself. First of all, we see the colour red. Your eyes have developed what are called rods and cones. Those rods and cones focus on colour. One of the major colours they see is red. So evolutionary wise, our brains are programmed to see red, very much like your body is programmed to digest a protein. But then there are other things that are also programmed about the colour red, because we can all, unless you're colourblind, as humans, see red. So one of the first things we want to talk about is how culturally different people emotionally react to red. And you'll see three of those here. What we've got is a stop sign. In Europe, red is associated with danger. The next one we've got is money bags, and it's a pseudo-Chinese symbol, because in the Chinese and the Asian part of the world, they see red as being associated with luck. And every new year, they're given money in a little red bag. Then finally, in the bottom corner, we've got a lovely lady in a wedding dress, because in the Indian subcontinent, and India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all of these, the colour red is about celebration. So your emotional reaction to red depends on where and when you grew up. Now, there's also something about directing attention. So if you see the rather supercar looking on the right hand side, you can decide to buy something, and all of a sudden you think you're choosing something in a colour. And let's say it was red. I'm sure you've all experienced this, because all of a sudden what you'll see is so many of that particular item in red. So if you were thinking about a car and buying a red car, the car is red. And you'll see them everywhere. That's because you've directed your attention. Your brain is predicting what you want to look at and how you want to see it. And then finally, there's one more, and that's about the current existing environment of what's called trust, power, and truth you find yourself in. You'll see the eye. I've got blue and red in the eye, because I know we've all been in organizations when someone at the top says, today, I want you to see red as blue. And regardless if we know that's wrong, we will all behave as though red is blue. And that shows you the social control when someone tries trust, power, and truth. So these are unconscious programs that happen permanently in our lives every single day. And I want you to try one for yourself now. Anna, can we drop onto the next slide? Right. Hopefully you've all remembered your cup of coffee. I hope you've got one, because you're now going to try this. And if you haven't, try this for me later. Right. Put the cup of coffee in front of you on your desk. Hold it with two hands. Close your eyes for me, and I'll be doing this as well. Right. So with that cup in your hand, I want you to imagine tea. I want you to imagine the place you really like drinking tea, or the teapot it's done in, right? So you open the teapot, you put in the tea leaves or the tea bag, you take it over to a tap or a kettle and you put in the hot water. And then now it's ready to drink, and you pour the tea into the cup in your mind that you're holding here, and you add your milk and you do all of those things. Right. Now open your eyes and drink your coffee. What you'll find is that your brain has predicted tea and it doesn't taste like it should. This is because every single action you take or come to take, your brain is permanently predicting the environment, and it predicts it to reduce risk. Can we move on to the next slide, Anna? Okay, so now we know. But what are those structures it uses? And they are broken down into very specific things, or areas, sorry, not things. And you saw some of that in the colour red. And we're going to be looking at these in those physical, social, cultural, but also time and place. Right, let's jump on to the next slide. So, always preparing for action and always reducing risk. If there's nothing else you remember today, apart from making coffee taste like tea, is that your brain reduces risk. And as Anna said right at the top of the conversation, we are living in unprecedented times for the whole environment around us to be incredibly high risk. It's worse than 2007 to 2008 because of the geopolitical instability and war in Europe. 8 million years your brain's been designed for to keep you safe, and it does it in a number of areas. One's physical, one's social, one's cultural, the other's time and place. Physical we've looked at slightly with the eye, but anything that's always been in a physical environment is now hardwired into your head. If you ask us afterwards, we can send you a newsletter, and on there is a great link to a YouTube video which proves this in tiny, tiny babies trying to do things. It shows you that they don't want to go over something that looks like a big drop. They will have never done or gone over a big drop and learnt it was dangerous, but the video is beautiful and it shows this. That's physical. The other things, and one of the things sometimes we don't realize so much as, is we have been working together as groups for around 7.5 million years. And you go, and? Thing is, we didn't have language until 200,000 years ago. So how on earth did we agree to work together as large groups, up to 70 people, to do things? There is unconscious ways, now they are, of transferring data and information knowledge to share. Then there's culture. Culture is what we learn today, like how I emotionally react to the colour red. You don't think about it, you just do it. And then finally, like the CEO, time and place. There's a time and place you grew up, which means you'll see something different. And there's right here, right now, who's controlling my environment. Let's move to the next slide, Anna. Right, so, and those four, but buying is always risky because you spend time and money. Interestingly, before you spend money, you spend time. And spending time is one of the riskiest things we ask people to do because they have very little of it. So why should they spend time with you? And as your brain is programmed to reduce risk, it's not going to want to do any of those things. And in an environment which is very risky anyway, geopolitically at the moment in the world, it drives inaction even further. But using those human code things, we can help someone reduce the risk of engagement and then buying from you. Next slide, please, Anna. And it's not just you by yourself. As you remember, 7.5 million years being part of a group, you regulate how you buy within the group you exist in. And that could be a number of groups. It can be socially. It can also be at work. You think about all the groups you are on, perhaps on Facebook, on social media, or your current social circle. That group has a huge impact on how you make decisions and how you reduce risk. So it's me as an individual and my group. And sorry, I've used some shorthand here. TPT is trust, power, and truth. Who has it? Who owns it? And why do I listen to that person? Next slide, please, Anna. So, unconscious decisions guide your every single choice. Your brain reduces risk you reduce with your brain, your environment, your culture, and your time of place. Let's see some of these in action. So, here are some, and there are probably over I think at last count, the last research I saw, there were over 900,000 common cognitive programs, and they all interact with each other. Here are just some of them that impact you every single day. So for example, let's just choose one of these, anchor bias. So what does this mean? The first figure data you mention in a conversation is what someone will then measure the next figure you do. So if you say, oh, usually this would cost 100 grand and today it's only 60 grand, that looks like a big saving, right? It's called anchor bias. It's used in negotiation all the time. We can look at, the bottom one, I really like this. I put DK again, that is my fault. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And this appears in a number of different ways. Obviously, it was named after Mr. Dunning and Mr. Kruger. But what happens is you assume far more knowledge and capability of your ability to be able to do something before you've tried it or when you've only got a little bit of knowledge. Where does this appear? Well, I'm quite sure you've all bought the best tool for the job, be it a snowboard or a set of golf clubs, and then you go and try and use it and you suddenly realize that you've got to learn a level of expertise to do it brilliantly. You can use the DK effect as well when you sell, because usually our buyers consider themselves experts in what they're buying. They're not experts in what they're buying, they're experts in their problem. But what they do not realize is your solution, but they're making huge assumptions about that. They're behaving a bit like doctor and patient. So they'll go, these are my problems, that's my solution. And one of the best ways you can then support them to make a better decision is by gently supporting information in their environment that educates them to be able to make better decisions. And that needs to come from marketing, but also from salespeople. And your salespeople can stand back and be gentler in their approach of delivering little pieces of information at certain times that allow someone to become more educated without technically losing face. But we're going to dig into these a bit more. Anna? So, increasing and activating people to buy. Let's look at human code in action. This is how I think of it, okay, is you're building a queue of people at your door who want to buy, and this person here is going to come in and buy from us and really is interested in doing it. Because what we've got to do is, by increasing and activating people, is reduce the risk, reduce the risk, reduce the risk, reduce the risk. I'm going to keep saying it because it's the most important thing you can do, but you do it by manipulating the decision-making environment around them. Anna? So we're going to jump through some examples. One of them you'll know really in depth. So I've talked about this a lot now, Bag for Life. Bag for Life, although it was launched over 20 years ago, is now worth 15 billion. It went from being a cost for supermarkets of about 70 to 80 million pounds a year to a profit centre. Each supermarket earns a significant amount today out of Bag for Life. It's now a profit from a cost. It was also responsible for cutting single-use carrier bag by 77% in 5 years. Great outcome. How did we do it? We used a physical program, we used a human program, and we used an interaction time and place program. So if you remember, when you touched a Bag for Life, it was really thick. One of the biggest problems with single-use carrier bags is they were thin and you didn't put a lot in them because you assumed they'd break. What happens now is when you held a big bag, you put more shopping into it because it's an unconscious program, it'll be stronger. And in fact, the initial work we did that the week we launched showed people put 4 times as much in a Bag for Life than a single-use carrier. So we're cutting them down. Secondly, when you were at the till operator asked you a specific question. How many bags for life do you want? This initiated a very specific program in your head because you've been asked to choose. When you choose, you must choose one or two. There's no. And very beginning, when you went up to the till, there was a little sign. And that little sign was written in a very specific way to use a program in your head based in humans' oral history. What's that? She says. The sign and the words had a rhythm, and it had a very particular rhythm, which is used to allow you to remember things. And it was bag for life, 10p, if it breaks free. The way your memory has been programmed, because we're very ancient beings, means you will remember 10p free. The last thing you will remember is free. So in your unconscious processing, it's free. You've been asked to make a choice, and you can put more in it. This is why Bag for Life worked. And we've got some other examples for you. So let's drop down. So the power of coffee. This was done for a very large vending machine organization. Now, what we're going to look at are 3 interactions here: empowerment, loss aversion, and social power. And what this did for this organization was drive the first multi-site million sales deal of vending machines on every single floor, and the most expensive vending machine they actually had. And they went across every single one of this insurance company's sites. Now, what happened was, first of all, you had to understand that the coffee machine only worked at specific times of day, and those times of day were when people should have been answering the phone. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, and this is when it went free. It went on to a free vend. There were loads of people queuing, lots of things got dropped, so it became a mess. So there was now a decision-making unit of about 5 people. Facilities, because they didn't like the mess with coffee. The finance controller, because he thought coffee was expensive. You then had the shift supervisors who didn't want people away at the time. And of course, you had, moving up to the board level, it would have been a big thing to change all of the coffee machines across everywhere. Cool. So what did we do? The company I was doing this for at the time had a particular product where you could literally go up and get a free cup of coffee whenever you wanted, up to about 3. So what we did is we convinced a particular place in North London to put in 3 coffee machines on this revend, on with what was called the free key, on 3 different floors. So we started to use what's called loss aversion, because we knew if it went in there, it would work. And it worked for everyone because there was less queuing. They were back to their phones when they needed to be. And the people thought it was, people as in the user buyers, thought it was a liberation. So you're starting to use social power, loss aversion, and also empowerment, because you were empowering the people to make a choice. And if you then took that away, which again is loss aversion, that would stop that all happening. So you gave it to someone, you let them try it, you then potentially take it away. What it did prove is that the coffee had to be on you could have it at any time you wanted, and everyone in that social power unit won. Facilities didn't have dirty floor tiles. Health and safety didn't have people spilling coffee. And the total cost of ownership was lower because of those things. So everyone in that decision-making unit or buying thing won. Right, so that's the power of coffee. What is it that someone's really buying? Right, trust, power, and truth. We've talked about this very gently, the red and the CEO at the top saying everything's red. How can you use this to drive buying decisions in what you do today? And this is a particular example we did for a pharmaceutical organization. Now, what they were doing is they had reps going in every day to see doctors to ask them to use the drug. And all they were looking at for the number of times a rep went in equaled the number of sales. So they brought us in and we had a look at the whole of that decision-making unit. And what we discerned was that rep had no trust, no power, and no truth to drive that buying decision. But there were people who did, and this was the local microbiologist and the budget holders within the local health area, because this was about an antibiotic which got zero resistance ever because its action and was very cheap, but it was old-fashioned. So people didn't use it. So what we recommended was that the people with power down into general practice and who they would listen to were the microbiologist and the family health service as far as budget holders. We got those two to come together. Microbiologist showed how well this particular drug worked, and the head pharmacist at the local authority said, look, you've only got this much money to spend on this type of drug. You should be doing what's the highest activity at the lowest cost. And as it happened for this company, it was their drug which had the best activity and the lowest cost. And immediately that newsletter went out, that organization within 2 days had 171% increase in sales, because reps did not have power in that decision-making process. The power was held by the community pharmacist and the microbiologist, and they were listened to, and the action happened. What was even funnier about this one is all of the material the reps took out had that in every single day. But no one listened to them because they had no trust, no power, and no truth. Should we look at the next one, Anna? Right, this is one I find really challenging. So you can ask me questions about it at the end, is trying to get this concept across beautifully. So I've chosen a particular example to wrap it in, and this was some work we did for a global accountancy firm, so tax and audit. And what they didn't get right was what their customers were actually buying. The accountancy firm didn't understand what they were buying. You know, the back to beginning about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and them thinking they knew more about the solution than they did about the problem. This is one of those. So we're going to look at Dunning-Kruger, Essence, who holds trust, power, and truth, because this drove the first global CRM, it's the SaaS CRM product deal ever for this organization. Now I'm going to describe to you a situation, because it was me who was in the room at this meeting, because I'd been asked to come in and help. So we had the large accountancy firm, and you had Salesforce, and you had another CRM company in there looking at getting these people to buy CRM. And they were having a pitch battle against features. My features are better. Now, in that room was the decision maker globally, IT, and these two organizations. The key point we needed to get across to the key decision maker, the holder of trust, power, and truth for the entire globe, was the fact that they weren't buying CRM, because CRM was not the solution to the problem they had. What they thought is they'd increase global sales by putting all the data into a CRM, and then everyone can share. What they hadn't realized was the problem was getting the data into CRM, because tax and audit did not speak to each other. Also, tax and audit were set in competition to each other, because obviously, if you know anything about accountancy, you can't have the tax business if you have the audit business. So we've got two internal competing parts of the organization who are being told to put all of their data into CRM. Well, they're not going to do it, because they are not going to share if they're in competition. Why would I share with you so you win more than me and you earn more money? So the baseline of the problem was not CRM, it was the fact that the two organizations different part of the organizations wouldn't share. So you had to solve that bit before you built the CRM. So what we did in that meeting, very similar to what we've done now, is put that case across to the holder of Trust, Power and Truth. And he actually, in that meeting, said, right, no, we're not going to use that lot. We're going with this lot over here, because not only do they understand the problem, they can provide the solution of how we get those people to share. So obviously that was my work. So that's looking at people who thought they knew more about their problem than they did. It's about the essence, what it actually is they were buying there, and the holder of Trust, Power and Truth was in the room. And it was planned, it was structured, it was organised to be delivered at that particular space in time. Right, let's drop on to the next slide. So I tried to put the information across in very easy to use chunks with some really good visual imagery so you can remember it. But if I'm leaving here today, where would I start? What would we do? And that's what we're going to look at next. How do you get started in this, Anna? Right, so essence. That bit I've just talked about, what it really is someone's actually buying from you. What is the thing they're buying from you? And this is one I learned a huge amount of years ago when I was at Procter & Gamble. So what do you think? And drop it into the comments, because I've got them open now. You buy when you buy shampoo. What is it I buy when I buy shampoo? Someone going to comment? Da, da, da. No one wants to have a go?
Give them a minute. There's a little bit of a delay usually on comments.
Oh, okay.
You're typing, people.
Oh, so Anna can see you typing and I can't. Okay. I'm not sure anyone wants to have a go now. I didn't really mean to be that scary. Oh, glossy, beautiful hair that looks perfect. I love it, Michelle. To clean me Barnet. Excellent, Steve. Any more? Right. So we're moving definitely in the right direction. What you buy is clean hair. And what you've actually bought is clean hair, and Michelle's right, with cosmetic benefits. And it's, oh, someone else coming up there. It's quite good smelling hair. Brilliant, Cliff. It's actually what it solved for you. And I know we say we do this all the time, but Anna and I have never worked for any organization that's got this right. Because we are so in the woods, we're so tied up with what we know, and it's human to be doing that, that in the end, we haven't got it right. Because if we don't get this bit right, it's how you get the next bit. And we always assume this is really easy, and people call it value proposition, and it's not. It's going back to the CRM and the SaaS one we've just looked at. This organization, who's a global accountancy and tax firm, and they do some consultancy as well, their problem was increasing sales because the way people had bought had changed. The solution they came up with was a tool, CRM. It didn't matter what CRM they bought, it was never going to solve what they really needed to buy, which was people sharing. And those two things come together, because you might have a tool, or might have a way of doing something or landing or something, but actually it's solving something else over here. And I hope that makes sense. It's those two things. So that essence is usually two elements that come together that actually deliver what it is someone wants. And I'll throw in the car one here. So you and I never bought a car. You can make some comments here, but I will need to move on as well. What we bought when we bought a car is the means to move from A to B. With brand affiliation, especially in the UK, your car says something about you. So I'm moving from A to B. Train gets me to move to A to B. If I've got brand affiliation, we know having a certain type of car, people assume something about us. So that's about what's called group attachment theory. It's the value that car has to that group. But there's a deeper one, which is why people will justify spending more money on their car than their house. Is because it's a concept of freedom, which is culturally baked into a very deep layer into most of the West. It's about freedom. You have freedom to leave when you want. Because if you looked at the economics of buying a car, it is a really unsensible choice. If you look at the deepest driver to buying a car, which is freedom, you can see why someone made that choice. And if I was selling cars, I'd probably look at it slightly differently. So, essence, human code, where to begin? Get this bit right. Moving on, Anna. So, if you get that bit right, you can usually find a target or think of who you know you need to speak to. And using technologies which are available, some of you, those you can actually get from us, you can place it into their environment all the time. But do you know that what you are doing reduces risk of someone interacting and buying from you? And that's what the human code does. Anna? Knowing that, we can enable things, what people say, but also how people say it, whether that's your salespeople or literally written communication. Because if we just think about some of those things again, like going back to trust, power, and truth, the person or the voice you are writing the message in must have maximum power in that person's head to make them reduce risk. Next slide, Anna. Right, you're programmed. The quicker you get used to it and the faster you get used to it, the quicker you'll drive sales. You can design programs for your sales teams and you can then enable them. You can do that. You can also enable your marketing to write your messages into the environment better. Anna? So I'm going to hand back to Anna now because we've done a quick skate through this 30 years of work because we want to give you something you can do. Anna.
Thank you, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. It's really, really powerful stuff. I mean, we're all salespeople in the room. And the work that Ginny's done and the way that she's kind of integrated the academic world and the sales world really enables us to gain competitive edge. We see it all the time when we work with clients. This is the stuff that makes the difference. It makes you stand out from your competitors. So what we would like you to do is choose how you want to move forwards with integrating some of this learning into your business, into your days, into your teams. And so we've got some codes here on the slide. We can tell you more about human code in sales, which Ginny alluded to earlier on. You can hop on a...
Sorry, yes. That's my fault. I've got a little cheat sheet which comes up with the top. This is my fault, as usual. The 5 most used cognitive biases. If you just put HCS, then I'll send that to you. And also on that sheet's the little video of how programmed you actually are and watching little small children in an environment where they are just behaving. Sorry, Anna, that's my fault. So if you want that one, choose HCS.
Correct. If you want to hop on a call and just chat about how you can use this human coding and all of the methodology that sits underneath it in your business, in your world, type DC. We are also launching this month for the first time a initial cohort of clients that we will work with in a clinic. So the clinic will run twice a month for an hour. Ginny will host it. It's an my lights have gone out. It's an opportunity for you to come with your questions, to come with things that you have tried to implement, seeing if they work, to get some feedback. Usually we would be charging £500 a month per person for this. Because it's the first cohort and we are learning as much as you are, we've reduced that price right down to £49.99. So if you are interested in joining us for a couple of hours each month, then type BKC. If you're interested in all of them, type all. One of the things that we will be doing moving forward is getting a bit more active on LinkedIn, a bit more active in seminars, but these 3 things are a way for you to start working with us today, to start using the human code to get more sales, make more money, get our numbers up, the things that we all want to do. So type away into the notes, whichever one you want to choose, and we'll contact you afterwards. If you've got any questions from today, add them into the comments and we'll pick them up before we close down. We'll be sending out a replay to everybody, so if you've hopped on and off because you've had calls or whatever, that's fine, you can catch up. Ginny, is there anything else that you would like to add? I'll tell you what, I would like to ask you a question so that you can share it with everybody, because you and I talk about this all the time. Why have you decided at this moment in time that you want to share the work that you've been doing for 30 years with businesses en masse rather than working in the big organizations? Because this is important, I think, for us in terms of our values as a business. It's important to share why we're doing it.
I've always believed this should, if everyone could do this, it'd be so much easier. We'd all sell more. We've been working very hard to do it at a price point that's really, 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 really accessible, because I believe it all matters. I don't care if you're, I don't know, one of the very, very large tech companies. You're just, if I run a small business and I'm a bakery or I'm a consultant or I'm going to coaching, or you are, to me, just as important. And I don't see, I've only ever been able to execute this for really large organizations because of what it costs. So this at the moment is a little piece of what we are building underneath, which are all automatic systems that do this for you, okay? And it will be done in a SaaS model, and it will be done at an incredibly easy price point, because I don't care who you are, you matter. And we have been building our own algorithms to do all of this stuff in the background, and we are using AI. However, before those are ready, all of this stuff's available to you now. We've written it out, we've got it. I want you to use it because I truly care you sell more, because that risky environment we started with at the beginning, if we all sold more, we start to reduce the risk in that environment for everyone, and we start to make everyone feel better, because you sell more, you've got more to spend, someone else buys it, they need your product. So it's that circular thing. But we're here, right? That's all I want to say. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me anywhere at any time, because I care, and people matter. And the fact that you actually appeared here shows you guys know what it is you'd like. I'll shut up now, because God, do I go on. Shut me up, Hannah.
Good stuff. Thanks ever so much, guys. I've seen all your comments in the chat, so I will email you afterwards and we'll arrange a time to onboard you for the different things. Thank you very much for joining us. We've enjoyed it very much. We hope you have too. And we will speak to you very soon. If I could end.